Hi and welcome to this DCP Word tutorial. In today's tutorial I'm going to show you how to create text titles using Movie Edit Pro 2022. Okay, let's go ahead and open up this folder on my desktop, and inside this folder I have 10 video clips. I've downloaded the video clips from the Pexels website, and I have one audio track that I downloaded from the YouTube audio library. So I'll put links to these in the YouTube description so you can download the same content. Okay, let's go ahead and open up Movie Edit Pro, and I'm using version 2022. We're going to click New Project here and then click Create button. So we've got a blank project here. Let's click on the timeline tool here and let's go ahead and drag in the first video clip. There's two ways to get content into Movie Edit Pro. You can just drag and drop from the directory, or you can use the browse tool over here, import, but I'm going to kind of use the drag and drop method for today. So let's drag this onto the timeline, and Movie Edit Pro is saying that the original video clip is 60 frames a second. Do I want to adjust it? I'm going to say no, do not adjust. I'm going to leave it at 25 frames a second, is fine. So this video clip here, we can see it's 20 seconds long, and we only really want probably about 5 seconds for our intro. So let's grab the timeline handle, let's left click here and we drag across until we get to 5 seconds. So 5 seconds will be right here. How do I know that? Because I'm looking at the timeline here, and you can use the arrow keys to adjust the timeline cursor here. So this is bang on 5 seconds. So we'll click the cut tool. Let's use the cut tool. We can click the end part of this video clip and delete it, and let's drag in the second clip here, and we want this to be 5 seconds. So our total duration now should be 10 seconds up here. That will be another 5 seconds. So that's 10 seconds right there. We'll cut this one and we'll delete this. So I'm just going to drag in all the video clips, then we'll add the titles and do some transitions. Let's make this a proper project, something quite interesting to do. So we'll drag this next clip in. Let's speed this up, and we're going to go to 15 seconds, which is right here. So I'm just keeping my eye on this timeline here, and we'll cut this, select this and delete it. While we're doing this work, it would be extra wise to save our work. So let's just go ahead and do that, and we'll just call this text titles -01, and we want to move in. So you can use your mouse wheel to scrub across the timeline, give yourself some more space. Let's drag in this number 3 clip. This one will be set to 20 seconds, which is right here, and we'll cut this one and delete it. Delete the end part here. Let's drag in the next one. This will take a little bit of time to do, but if we're going to demonstrate text titles, then we might as well have some decent content to work from. That way I can show you how to speed up the workflow as well afterwards. This is 25 seconds. We'll cut here and delete this, and then we'll drag in this one and we'll go to 30 seconds, which is right here, and we'll cut it. And obviously you can cut your content a bit more accurately, maybe find elements in there that are a bit more interesting for you, but I'm just doing this as an example. So really I want to cut it probably around let's see, let's get a little bit more forward here. So I'm going to cut it here because I didn't really want them people right at the beginning. Let's cut it here, and then we want to go in 5 seconds, so we'll be right here, and we'll cut this and delete it. And then we've got Piccadilly. Well, we've got a few more left. It's Piccadilly Circus, quite famous. So we want to get to 40 seconds here, right? So I'm just giving each video clip a 5-second duration, so you can see each one of these is the same size now. They're all 5 seconds, right? And let's do Palace, Westminster Palace, Palace or Westminster, and we'll go to 5 seconds here. So we should have like a nice even number here, right? We've got 45 seconds. Divide that by the amount of clips. You should have 8 times 5, and then you'll get your number, right? 45. So let's just drag across here. Let's get rid of let's get it to 47 seconds. I'm going to cut here, get rid of this beginning part, and then we'll drag across to 50 seconds. That will give us another 5 seconds here. So we're almost done. I think we've only got one left now, so it didn't take too long. And we'll get to 5 seconds right here, and then we'll cut it. And one thing we want to do is get rid of any audio, so let's hover over here and drag down, if the track has audio on it, then you can drag here. There's like a little bottom handle, and that will just get rid of any audio, because we're going to add some music here as well. So let's just quickly do that. It might be a quicker way of doing this, but I'm just going to do it track by track. Maybe you can multi-select them and do it in one go, I'm pretty sure this is quite an easy way to do it as well. So now we've got all of our video in here, and we don't have any titles, but we haven't really got any transitions. So let's just quickly do the transition. That would be wise. So I'm going to select this one here. It's kind of this ripple effect. I'm going to drag it to the beginning of the clip before, right? So we see the transition like this. So I'm just going to drag that same one to the beginning of every single video clip like this, and that will just put our transition. And I like to use like a simple transition for each one, and a similar one or the same one for each video clip. But you know, you've got choices here. I've made a tutorial on transition, so I'll put a link to all of the tutorials that I've done so far for Movie Edit Pro 2021. But now we've got this nice transition, and now we can think about doing the titles, right? So the titles won't take long to do at all. So there's two ways to do the titles. There's a manual way, and then there's a kind of an automated way, you could say. So you're inside of the templates here, you've got your transitions at the top, but underneath you've got the different titlings that you can add, right? So you've got all of these like 3D ones. If you click play, click the play button here, just give it a second, you can kind of see like the 3D text and all these different ones. Obviously that's a bit over the top. Then you've got like animated ones as well. So it's all down to your own preference what you want to create here in terms of titles. I think these are all a bit over the top, but like you've got like ones like this that might be nice for an intro or something if you want to do that, but I want to keep mine quite simple, nothing too complicated. So you can experiment with these. You've got opening and closing ones where they just kind of slide in like this and do simple things, and there's quite a lot for you to select from in here. There's loads and loads of different ones, right? So you've got this one here. This is quite a nice one. Maybe we can experiment with this one. So if you want to use a pre-made one, I'm just going to drag the timeline to the beginning, and this is a pre-made one. I'm going to show you how to create your own custom ones as well. I'm going to drag this onto the timeline, and you can see that it's asking me to type in the name. So I'm just going to call this this text in here, I'm just going to say visit London, right? Visit London, and then we can accept that by clicking the tick icon. And if you move your mouse cursor on here, this one's automatically fading in and kind of fading out. It's doing that transition for you because you're using the pre-made one, right? One that's pre-made for you. And in here you can just change the font styles, you can change the font size, you can do quite a lot of things in here. You can make it italic, bold, underline, you can left align it, you can do all of this good stuff, right? And you can just go and experiment with this, and you know, just have a little play around and see what all the different settings do. You can add you know, different effects in here basically, right? You can manipulate the text and the positioning of the text. Quite a few different things in here you can do. But I don't really like to use these pre-made text titles. I prefer to create my own, position it myself, and do the fading and fade out, or do whatever I want to do, and then replicate that title across. So I prefer to use a manual method where I've got a bit more control over the content. So this is just an example, and you could use this if you wanted to in your titles, and you just create the titles going across here like this. So you create the first one, then you can copy it, you can move across the timeline, paste it, you can drag it to here. And this one's about Canary Wharf, so we can click on the text here. You should move across the timeline where you can see the text, click it, and then this one would be about Canary Wharf. So we could copy that text, Canary Wharf, like this. And if we go back to the beginning and click play, we'll see Visit London. Then towards the end, it's going to do the transition, fade out, and then it will say Canary Wharf, and then it will fade out again. You can just keep copying and pasting this transition across, or this text title across each one, and then you will get your text titles done. I don't really want to do that. I'm going to select these and delete them, and we're going to go back to the beginning of the timeline, and we'll go back to templates, and I'm going to click font basic and drag this first one. It's just a basic font, nice and simple. Here's your basic font, and we're going to type in again Visit London, and I'm going to choose a different font. In this case, I want to find this font that I like quite a lot for this. It's called Lemon Milk Bold, right? So I'm going to use that font because I quite like that font and the size of it and stuff. It looks pretty good. I'm going to click here, and then I want to make this a lot bigger. and I want to left align it. Left align, which may seem strange, but I want to position it at the bottom corner here. So remember, we're creating our own titles now, so we can manipulate the title a bit more clearly as to what we want to do. You can add like 3D text, and you can add like all of this stuff here, right? There's lots of different options in here, but I want to keep the title pretty simple. You can add like borders, and you can increase the border size. So here you can see the border around it, around the text. That looks quite good actually, but the border probably we would want to make it like a black color, right, like this. And then inside of the text here, we can increase the character space. If you want to increase the character space a little bit here, maybe we'll set it to something like 10. This is visit London. You've got a bit of a gap between the text. You can see I can manipulate the content now, right? And you can do pre-made transitions. So in this drop down, you can do left to right. So then when you scrub across this timeline, it will slide in like left to right like this. These are like pre-made transitions in here, but I don't really want to do that, so I'm going to select none. I'm quite happy with the text and the way it looks. So this is fine, but we want to take this text now and we're going to position it at the bottom here. Let's just save our work. Let's just save project. So we want to move the title to the lower position down here. So to do that, let's scrub down on the effects down here, and we're going to go to start and position, click apply effect, and we don't really manipulate the size. You can change the size in here, but you could also just change the font size anyway, right? So you could manipulate the size like this, but it would make more sense to just change the font size in here, right? Here you can see it's set to 33. I don't like odd numbers. Let's set it to 32. A little bit smaller, and then we'll go back down to size and position, and now we can click and drag it down here. Now there's a reason why I left align it, so be careful. It's worth left aligning the text, because any new text that you type is always going to start from this position. As default inside of Movie Edit Pro, the text is centered, right? It's centered like this. You could have it centered if you want, but I'm going to left align it, have all my titles on the left hand side. And now we just want to do some transitions. So really what I want to do is drag this to the end of the timeline around here. In fact, let's drag it back and let's zoom in a little bit so you can see this a bit clearer. So this is the title, and I want that title to last 2 seconds, right? So here's 2 seconds on the timeline. This position here is exactly 2 seconds here, you can see. So I want to drag this text here and drag it back so it's exactly 2 seconds. Then I want to drag all of the content so it snaps just before the transition happens, right? Now we can move across to the timeline, and what I want to do is, let's see, in fact it's probably easier to do this at the beginning of the timeline, the fade in and out. So I'm going to move across the timeline to where it is 20 frames. 20 frames is here. Let's say 15 frames might be better. 15 frames. So you see 15 frames here, and I'm going to drag this handle across to that 15 frames there, like this. So now the text will fade in, and then I want to do the opposite, right? So we're on 24 frames. Let's make this. Let's make life a little bit easier. Let's make it 14 frames, not 15, because then if we go to the end, we're on 1 minute. 1 second and 24 frames, so we want to be exactly on 1 second, which will be 24 frames less, right here. And then we can drag this handle and move it this way to snap to this position. Now we can drag the whole element. This doesn't seem right. Should be 1:14, right? 1 second and 14. So let's drag this. 1 second and 14 would be correct here. So that should be correct. This is 14 frames, so it should be 1 second and 10 plus 14 will make it 24 frames to the end. So then now the beginning fade and the end fade are the same duration. I want something nice and clean and simple like this. You could do movement and stuff, but I think this is quite nice just to keep the titles there nice and clean like this. Now we can take this and drag it to the end just before that transition happens. So if we click here and click the spacebar to play it, it will fade in, fade out, and then it will transition to the next content. Now we can replicate that content, the title, and use it against all the other titles that we want to create. So if I click on this one, copy it, and just make sure you move somewhere else on the timeline, and then press Ctrl V to paste it, then drag it so it snaps back into this position. You need to make sure the magnet icon is activated here, yeah? so when you drag it, it will just snap back. Now all you need to do is click on it and change the text inside. So we can do this really quickly. Now you'll see we can just cut and paste, and if we move here we can see the text is aligned correctly. You know, it's Visit London, and then the Canary Wharf one is aligned correctly. Now we can copy this one, move across the timeline, paste it, and then we can move across the timeline, paste it again, and we're just going to snap them to the end, and then we can just go and change the text on them afterwards. It's just easier to just cut and paste them, position them, and then do the text edit. Then you're just doing like one task at a time, just a bit quicker to do it this way. Right, but it's up to you. You can edit them one by one if you want. It's entirely your choice. I just prefer to do it this way, like this, and then finally like this. And we need to think about what we're going to do towards the end. So we might move this one slightly or do something. So we've got no real transition, but we're probably going to just fade out at the end. So we'll do that maybe now. So we're at the end, we're on 50 frames and 14 seconds. So let's go back to 50 frames right here, and I'm going to drag this handle on the video clip inwards, and that will fade out the video clip, and I'm going to drag this back here. So now at the end you'll see the title, and then it will fade out and then fade like this. Let's fade in the beginning as well. So let's scrub in 14 frames. So I'm 14 or 15 frames now. I'm on 14 frames. I can grab this white handle and drag it in, right, and it's going to fade from black, fade in like this, and then your title will happen like this. So we've done this one, I believe, Canary Wharf. Now let's go to this one, and this one's let's see, this one is actually, where is this? This one's London Eye. So let's copy the text London Eye, let's paste it in here. Let's move to the next one, and this one's going to be Oxford Street. So these are all places in London. This is where I live, and these are all the quite famous places that you can visit around London. So let's go to this one. This one is Tower Bridge, I believe. Yep, Tower Bridge. We can go to this one. This one's going to be Hyde Park. And then to this one is St. Paul's Cathedral. Let's see if that all fits in there. Let's see. Canary Wharf. So I think actually, let's see. So this is St. Paul's Cathedral. This is wrong, right? So we're doing something wrong. We have to be a bit careful. So this is Oxford Street. This is Tower Bridge. This one here should be let's see, what is it? This is Hyde Park. So let's just do that again. So Hyde Park. Hyde Park, right? So let's click and move the timeline, and then let's click on this one and drag across. So this one is St. Paul's. And then we'll move across the timeline. This one here is going to be Piccadilly Circus. Piccadilly Circus. And then we'll click and drag across. Let's just make sure these are all correct. They all seem to work fine. And then we'll get to this one here. This is Westminster. This is Westminster Palace. So I'm doing on this one, right? I think it's selected. So let's just undo that. This is Piccadilly Circus. Make sure you click on the right one when you do the update. Otherwise, you're editing the previous one that you don't really want to change. Because we just changed that to what did we change it to? We changed it to Piccadilly Circus. If you don't click on it, you're going to end up editing the one before. So make sure you click on it, then drag across the timeline. This is Chinatown. So hopefully this will inspire you to come and visit London if you've never been here before. It's a nice place to come and visit. So why not come and visit London? And then right at the end, we're just going to type in visit London again. And again, see, I've selected the wrong one. So I'm going to end up editing this one. So I'm going to undo that. So that stays as Chinatown. Click on this one and then visit London. Let's just save this work. Press Ctrl S to save. And we can drag back on the timeline. And let's just watch a few of the clips. I'm going to probably export this anyway and add this towards the end of the tutorial, and you can watch it what it all looks like. But I think this is a nice clean way of doing it, right? Rather than having all this crazy moving text and just quite distracting. But it's all down to your own preference, whatever your video content is. If it's a birthday party, then you can, have text floating about and doing all crazy stuff. This is more like a promotional video or something to come and visit London, right? Imagine if you're making this for a client and they say they do maybe tours in London or something, then maybe you could do something like this. Or if you're promoting your business, maybe you make cakes in your business or something. You could have different cake examples and you could put the names of the cakes below. Or it could be anything you want. Maybe you went to an event, like a car event, and you film loads of cars and you want to put the names of the cars that you're showing. Then you could do that as well, right? So we want to now add the audio. So let's go back to here, and we've got one audio track. I'm just going to drag that onto the timeline, and that audio is going to be quite loud, I think. But what I'm going to do first of all, let's just play it and see how loud it is. So what I want to do is click on the handle here, and I'm going to drop it down to probably about minus 10 dB, about minus 10. Let me just see how loud it is now. So I think that's about right. We don't want it too loud. And what we could do now is drag this handle here, and we could fade the audio in. So maybe we fade it in quite gradually at the beginning. So let's test that. That sounds alright. Let's go to the end of the timeline, and we're going to click here and go to the end of the timeline. Click on this yellow audio clip at the bottom. Let's cut it and then select this and delete it, and then we can drag this handle so that it fades out nicely towards the end. And I want to fade out a bit more, so I want it to fade out over a longer duration. I think this fade at the end of the video clip should be longer as well, like that, right? So I'm quite happy with that. I don't know what you think. Obviously you're going to go and create your own content and your own video stuff, but you've learned quite a few things in here. It wasn't really just adding titles, but we've actually created a full completed video clip here. We've added audio, we've added transitions, we've edited the content as well. We've copied our titles across so that we can reuse our work rather than creating this 10 times over. These titles, we've used one, make sure it's correct and you're happy with it, then you can just reuse that multiple times across your timeline to create up all of your content. Let's go to File, Save. We'll save this project. We can now just go ahead and close Movie Edit Pro. Inside of this folder we should be able to see our original make file here, so we can open this up again and edit the content or change anything that we want at a later date. So make sure you retain your original make file here. Let's go ahead and close this folder down. That's the end of this tutorial showing you how to create text titles in Movie Edit Pro 2022. The same logic applies to older versions of Movie Edit Pro, so if you're using 2021 or 2020, then you should still be able to achieve this same logic using those older versions of Movie Edit Pro, so that shouldn't be a problem. Okay, so if you'd like to subscribe to my YouTube channel, you can find over 750 free video tutorials on a wide range of subjects. Right now I'm focusing on Movie Edit Pro 2022, so you're going to see a lot of tutorials around that particular piece of software, and then we'll move on to something else afterwards. So hopefully you found this tutorial useful, and that's the end of this tutorial, and I look forward to seeing you in the next DCP web tutorial.